Have you ever trusted someone who made you feel seen, only to discover, too late, that they were studying you, not supporting you? That their kindness was a cover, not a connection? It's a haunting thought. The most dangerous people aren't the ones who openly hate you. They're the ones who stay close, listen well, and smile while sharpening the knife behind your back. In Stoic philosophy, we're taught to expect hardship, not to live in fear, but to remain awake. Because betrayal rarely arrives with noise. It creeps in through charm, through routine, through people who know exactly where you'll be and when you'll be alone. This video isn't about paranoia, it's about perception. We're going to explore 5 unsettling signs that someone in your life might not simply dislike you, but may in fact be quietly working to erase you. These signs are subtle, easy to miss, and that's what makes them deadly. So take a breath, stay grounded, and as we step into this darker territory, stay present. You may see things more clearly than ever before. If this speaks to something you felt but couldn't explain, keep watching. It's time to see without illusion. Sign 1. The silent observer. Let's talk about one of the most unnerving signs that someone in your life may not just harbor resentment. They may be quietly, systematically preparing your downfall. I call this the silent observer. And if you've ever felt watched, studied, or strangely predicted, this one will hit close. Because we're not talking about harmless curiosity or the occasional social media lurker. This is something far more calculated, more deliberate. The kind of person who doesn't confront, doesn't speak, doesn't act out, because they're not reacting, they're preparing. The silent observer doesn't operate with noise, they operate with patterns, with patience, with silence so sharp it cuts. They memorize your routines, not out of interest, but for strategy. They show up not to be seen, but to monitor. Your gym, your coffee shop, your commute. Their presence is never dramatic, just consistent, eerily so. And it's that subtlety that makes them so dangerous, because you don't notice it right away. You brush it off, you rationalize, you tell yourself, it's nothing. But Stoic wisdom teaches us, the wise don't dismiss discomfort, they investigate it. Predators thrive not just on proximity, but on your uncertainty. They weaponize your doubt. They hide behind the story you're too polite or too scared to rewrite. And what they fear most is your clarity, your alertness, your refusal to call something a coincidence when it's clearly a pattern. I once heard of a woman named Sarah, a marketing executive, who had broken things off with a man she described as quiet but intense. A few months passed, and she began to notice small, repeating oddities. He'd appear at the grocery store, then the park, then outside the yoga studio she'd never once mentioned to him. She changed her schedule, joined a different gym, even started shopping at new places. And yet, somehow, he reappeared. No contact, no messages, no overt threats, just that unnerving consistency. Her friends told her he was probably just heartbroken, but she realized this wasn't someone chasing closure. It was someone collecting data. And this is what we must understand. When someone studies you without reason, when they show up without invitation, when they track you without a word, it's not affection. It's not even obsession. It's premeditation. And Stoic philosophy warns us about the danger of underestimating those who hide behind appearances. Epictetus wrote that we must be as vigilant with our internal peace as we are with our physical safety. If someone disrupts your peace not with words, but with presence, pay attention. Because that kind of intrusion isn't always loud. Sometimes it's insidious. In the modern world, surveillance doesn't require cameras or parked vans. All it takes is access. Access we freely give through our digital footprints, public check-ins, story tags, patterns we don't think to conceal. And while most people are harmless, the ones who mean you harm will never tell you with words. They'll tell you with presence, with timing, with precision. The Stoics teach that wisdom is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. To live rationally is to recognize when a thing is no longer coincidence, but a signal. When someone is present in your life repeatedly without context or cause, that's not fate. That's a red flag. And your job is not to rationalize it. Your job is to respond with clarity. You don't need confrontation. You need distance, boundaries, detachment. Remember, the person who hates you loudly is less dangerous than the one who studies you silently. The loud enemy shows their hand. The silent one watches yours. That's why discernment is your greatest protection. Look for patterns. Pay attention to how often you run into someone who shouldn't know where you are. Trust the inner stillness that gets disrupted when they show up. That's not anxiety, it's awareness. That's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition. And as Marcus Aurelius once said, if it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. But when someone keeps appearing where they shouldn't, don't wait for them to say anything at all. Trust that the truth is already unfolding in silence. At the end of the day, not everyone who watches you wants to know you. Some just want to know enough to remove you, and those are the ones you must never ignore. Sign 2. The Saboteur Strategy. Let's talk about a tactic that doesn't bruise the body, but isolates the soul. A method so insidious it slips beneath the radar of even the most observant minds. I call it the Saboteur Strategy. This is not about hatred expressed in arguments or emotional outbursts. It's about destruction by erosion of your relationships, your credibility, and eventually your ability to stand strong. And make no mistake, this isn't clumsy drama. This is strategy disguised as concern, poison masked as whispers. Here's a truth backed by behavioral science. Even if a lie is proven false later, it still lingers in the mind. Its damage is done the moment it's heard. That's why the saboteur doesn't come for you directly. They target perception. They aim not to wound, but to weaken. And they do it by turning others against you, one conversation, one implication at a time. To your boss, they mention you're falling behind, not as an accusation, but as a worried observation. To your friends, they hint that you've changed, not out of malice, but out of concern. They never make a loud claim. That would be too obvious. Instead, they sow doubts, subtle, strategic doubts. And what makes it truly dangerous is that it feels like life unraveling naturally, a rough patch at work, a misunderstanding with someone close, a slow drip of disconnection from people you once trusted. You try to make sense of it, but nothing adds up. Why are people pulling away? Why do you feel blamed, even when you've done nothing wrong? That's the brilliance and the cruelty of the saboteur. They don't strike at you. They dismantle the ground beneath you until you're forced to stand on sand. From a Stoic perspective, this is not just an external attack. It's a philosophical test. Because Stoicism teaches us to endure hardship with grace, but it also warns us to remain alert to deception. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." But what happens when the obstacle is not a stone in your path, but a fog that hides the path entirely? When the trial you face isn't a clear battle, but 1,000 small betrayals no one else sees? This is the saboteur's art: fragmentation, quietly engineered conflict. They want you unstable, not because they fear your chaos, but because it makes you easier to discredit. They want you loud and defensive, because that's when you look guilty. So you begin explaining yourself, proving your worth, defending your intentions, only to find your words are being twisted, your efforts feeding the fire. The more you speak, the more suspicious you seem. And this is where the wisdom of Stoicism becomes your shield. Do not chase every rumor. Do not lower yourself into the mud of every accusation. Anchor yourself in what the Stoics have always taught: integrity above all. Protect your peace, but also protect your position. Document what matters. Keep records. Save receipts. Not for revenge, but for truth. Because the saboteur's greatest weapon is confusion, and your greatest defense is clarity. More than anything, keep your circle intentional. Do not entertain every listener. Not every open ear is a safe one. And don't try to fix your image through constant explanations. Stoic clarity comes not from being understood by all, but from being at peace with who you are. Epictetus reminded us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Let others talk. Let them speculate. You focus on your integrity, your work, your center. In time, their inconsistencies will expose themselves, because character always outlasts manipulation. And when others start to see the patterns you've already recognized, they'll understand what you were too wise to shout. If you feel like you're being slowly pushed out, questioned, or diminished, but you can't find the source, look closer. The saboteur moves like a phantom, always near but never named. Their fingerprints are on your broken connections, not your bruised skin. They don't fight you directly. They dismantle the support that keeps you upright. So when the walls begin to close and you sense someone orchestrating the collapse, don't panic, don't react. Do what the Stoics did. Observe, reflect, act with purpose, and above all, do not play the game. You cannot defeat a saboteur by defending yourself louder. You defeat them by refusing to let confusion become your compass. You defeat them by staying still, clear, and untouchable. At the end of the day, some people don't just want to see you fall. They want to make sure no one's around to catch you. And that's why the greatest form of strength isn't loud vindication. It's silent, strategic endurance. Sign 3. The false friend, Façade. Let's talk about one of the most chilling betrayals in human interaction, the kind that doesn't just hurt, but haunts. The false friend facade. It's ancient, timeless, and devastating. This isn't just someone who dislikes you. This is someone who plots while they smile, who disarms you with kindness and gains access through empathy. This is not conflict, it's infiltration. And if you don't see it coming, it's because that's exactly how they designed it. We're taught to see warmth as safety. We associate attention with affection. So when someone enters your life and begins showing deep interest, asks about your past, remembers the little things, wants to be included in your routines, it feels good, maybe even healing. But Stoic philosophy reminds us, not every open hand carries peace. Sometimes it's a glove hiding the blade. The false friend doesn't ask for your trust. They earn it unnaturally fast. They study you under the guise of compassion. They want to know who matters to you, what breaks you, when you're vulnerable, and what you fear most. But not to help. To hold that information like currency. To wait. To strike when it costs you the most. It starts innocently. They offer to help with errands. They get close to your family. They seem generous with their time. But what they're really doing is drawing the map of your life. and taking notes. I once heard about a man named Elijah who went through this exact storm. After a rough year, he found comfort in a colleague named Mark, charming, patient, always ready to lend an ear. Mark began helping with small tasks, checking in on Elijah's mother, even volunteering to manage parts of his team at work. What seemed like loyalty quickly turned to dependency. Then, one day, projects started failing. Rumors spread. Elijah was blindsided by accusations he never saw coming, because they didn't come from outside, they came from within, from someone who knew exactly where to aim. The Stoics warned us not to give trust easily. Seneca wrote, "A friend is someone you trust with your soul, but that trust must be earned, not given freely to anyone who smiles and listens." That's where discernment, sophrein, the Stoic virtue of wise restraint, comes into play. Stoicism isn't about paranoia, it's about clarity. It teaches us that not all connection is genuine, that some people come close not to support us, but to study us. And here's what makes the false friend so dangerous. They mirror you. They echo your values. They share just enough of their own secrets to make you lower your guard. You begin to think, they get me, and they do, but not in the way you hope. They understand you, like a hunter understands its prey, intimately, efficiently, without sentiment. And because they wear empathy like armor, no one else suspects a thing. You don't even suspect it until they vanish, or worse, turn. So, how do you protect yourself? You slow the process. You don't rush intimacy. You watch how someone handles your boundaries before handing them your truths. You ask yourself, why now? Why this person? Why this sudden closeness? Stoic wisdom reminds us, true friendship reveals itself over time, through consistency, not performance. Trust isn't earned through intensity. It's proven in absence, in silence, in how someone acts when they no longer need anything from you. Guard your story. Keep sacred the details of your life that can be turned against you. And above all, trust what your intuition whispers before logic tries to overwrite it. If something feels too fast, too personal, too flattering, it probably is. Stoicism teaches that our peace is not something we should gamble in the name of connection. It must be protected, observed and defended with the same devotion we give to our physical safety. The false friend doesn't want your loyalty. They want your blueprint. And once they have it, they'll know exactly where your foundation cracks, how to isolate you, expose you, or collapse you when it serves them. So yes, be warm, be kind, but never confuse rapid closeness with real connection. Examine who asks for your time, who seeks your vulnerability, and who shows up too intensely, too soon, without reason. At the end of the day, the most dangerous enemy isn't the one who stands in front of you. It's the one who walks beside you, wearing your trust like a costume, waiting for the perfect moment to take off the mask. Sign 4. Escalating aggression. Let's talk about one of the most overlooked but unmistakable signs that someone isn't just angry, they're evolving into something far more dangerous. I call it escalating aggression. It doesn't start with fists or weapons. It begins with unease, with offhand jokes and passing remarks that seem a little too dark, a little too close to something sinister, and that's the whole point. When a person wants more than confrontation, when they crave control, fear, or even harm, they don't show their hand all at once. They escalate, slowly, strategically. It often starts with humor, the kind that makes the room pause for a second too long. A joke like, "I could snap your neck right now and no one would know," followed by a forced laugh and a look that lingers just a bit too long. These aren't just poor attempts at dark humor. They're probes, psychological tests, designed not to entertain, but to assess. They want to see how you react. Do you freeze? Do you flinch? Do you laugh nervously just to get through it? Because every reaction is data. Every shrug, every dismissive smile gives them more information about what they can get away with. Let me tell you a story that rattled even experienced investigators. In 2016, a young woman named Claire moved into a new apartment complex after graduating college. There she met a neighbor, Nathan. He was quiet, a little awkward, but helpful. He offered to carry groceries, made small talk in the hallway, and always seemed to be just around. Over time, his presence became a pattern. He always managed to show up when she left for work. He started asking unusually detailed questions about her day, her habits, her weekend plans. And then came the first red flag disguised as a joke. At a community BBQ, he told a group, "I'd make the perfect killer. No one would suspect me." Everyone laughed. Claire forced a smile. But something shifted inside her. Soon after, he began encroaching on her space, standing too close in the elevator, brushing against her shoulder in hallways without apology. Once, he stood in front of her door, blocking her from entering, insisting they just talk about something trivial. And then came the moment that turned her fear into certainty. One night, she found a large hunting knife placed neatly on her doormat. No note, no context, just the object laid there like a message. When she reported it, the authorities shrugged it off. A prank, they said. Harmless. But Claire knew better. She installed a camera. She documented every encounter. Within weeks, the camera caught Nathan at 2 a.m. in gloves, trying to pick her lock, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. When he was arrested, they found a detailed journal in his apartment, tracking her every movement, her work hours, her favorite stores, a map of her building, a timeline marked with chilling precision, execution window. This is what escalation looks like. Not chaos, but calculation. It begins with psychological manipulation, not physical violence. The Stoics warned us about such dangers, not with fear, but with vigilance. Seneca once wrote, "He who is forewarned is forearmed." Stoicism isn't about pretending darkness doesn't exist. It's about confronting it with open eyes, steady hands, and a mind that sees clearly. If someone in your life begins making jokes laced with threats, brushing past your boundaries, or consistently testing how much space they can claim in your world, do not ignore it. If they smirk when you flinch, if they apologize with sarcasm, or if they monitor your routines under the guise of just being friendly, take it seriously. Predators don't need fangs to be lethal. Sometimes they just need access. And that access is often earned, not forced. Escalation is about desensitization. It's designed to wear you down slowly, until what once felt wrong starts to feel normal. Until comments that once chilled your spine start to pass without notice. Until the person who makes you uncomfortable becomes the person you've been conditioned to tolerate. Stoicism teaches us to remain rooted in reason, not emotion. And reason demands that when the signs appear, no matter how subtle, we don't dismiss them. We document, we protect, we prepare, not in panic, but in clarity. Because the person who begins with unsettling humor might very well end with something far worse. At the end of the day, what you ignore out of discomfort today might be the very thing that puts you in danger tomorrow. Trust your instincts, honor your unease, and never let politeness become the reason you ignore a pattern that's trying to warn you. Sign 5. The patient predator. Let's talk about the most dangerous kind of enemy, the one who doesn't rush, doesn't rage, and never reveals their hand too soon. The patient predator. This isn't someone who argues, threatens, or acts out impulsively. This is someone who smiles while they study you, who builds trust while planning betrayal. Their weapon isn't aggression, it's time. The patient predator plays the long game. Every word they say, every favor they offer, every kind gesture. It's not about connection, it's about calculation. They want access, not closeness. They ask about your travel dates, your future plans, your routines, not out of care, but because timing is everything. And they'll wait, months, even years, until the perfect moment when your defenses are down and you're most alone. What makes them terrifying isn't their appearance, it's how normal they seem. They're the co-worker who always offers to help, the neighbor who remembers your birthday, the friend who listens so well it feels like they know your soul. But behind their warmth is cold precision. Beneath their helpfulness is a rehearsed script. Their life isn't lived, it's performed. Every interaction is part of a strategy to get closer while staying unnoticed. Epictetus warned, "Our greatest threat is not what we see, but what we overlook." And the Stoics were clear, never assume life operates on fairness. Evil doesn't always wear a scowl. Sometimes it wears a smile. The patient predator doesn't slip up. They wait for you to slip. For the one day your habits change. For the moment your support system weakens. That's when they move. And because they've built your trust, you never saw it coming. So be kind, be open, but never stop being watchful. In a world full of masks, even virtue can be used as camouflage. At the end of the day, it's not the visible enemy that destroys you. It's the one you let too close, too easily, for too long. So what can you do? Move slower with trust. Guard your life like something sacred, because it is. The Stoics remind us, what appears harmless often deserves the most attention. If someone came to mind while watching this, don't dismiss it. Your instincts speak the truth before logic catches up. Comment below, "I stay aware." And if this opened your eyes, subscribe, because clarity is a habit, not a moment. Keep your peace close, stay awake. And in the next video, we'll go even deeper. You're not alone in this.